have already discussed abilities, aka stats, in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition in my different videos for beginners guides for Baldur's Gate. But I think that it is very important that we dedicate one specific video to ability points and what are they going to do for us. What are they going to do for our characters? Because when you create your character, when you make your character, like I said, I did discuss this briefly on my character creation video. But I think that it is important that we give the desired focus on this thing and do a longer video about this thing for people to be aware of how are they going to be placing their stats for their character when they create their character, and how are they going to manage the stats, the abilities, so when they move on into the game. Do have in mind as well that a lot of terminology that I am going to be using on this video is going to be based on dice rolls, skills checks, difficulty checks and whatnot, so I do advise for you to watch my other guides for you to be able to understand every single little thing that we're going to be discussing about in this video. That being said, abilities are basically what you know in the rest of the RPGs as stats, and they are going to have contextual actions that are going to allow you to bypass situations that otherwise you wouldn't be able to. But just to have in mind that they are also going to have an impact on your gameplay experience for your character builds. But I really want for you to be very aware that the stats that you take right here, the ability points that you take right here, they are not only going to affect how your character behaves in combat, but it's also going to affect how your character behaves during the world, during conversations, and during contextual actions. So let's begin with strength. They are also going to be tied to skills, but we're going to be speaking about a little later in the video. Strength. Strength is going to determine how much damage are you going to deal. Before anything else, let's also speak about the ability bonus that you are going to receive for having a certain amount of stats. This chart that I have for you right here, this is how much of a bonus you're going to get on your dice rolls whenever you're using one of these things. So let's say that, for example, you have 30 strength and you have to bypass a 20 difficulty check for a strength contextual action or a strength conversation. You already have 10 because of the bonus, ability bonus that you have right here. You only have to roll a 10 with your dice of 20, so that's already 50% right there. And this is going to be the very same thing for every single stat. This is the chart that you need to have in mind about the ability bonus that you are going to have for a set amount of stats. Once that has been explained, now let us speak about the abilities on themselves and what are they going to be doing in combat and on contextual actions. So strength is going to determine how much damage are we going to deal with melee weapons. But it's also going to determine how much strong our character is and how many contextual actions related to strength feats are going to be related to that ability point. So to give you some brief example, breaking objects. The more strength you have, the more expertise that you have at breaking heavier or sturdier objects, which is also true for lifting objects. For you to be able to lift heavier things, you're going to need a little bit more strength. Also, strength characters, they jump higher than the rest of the characters. So those are some of the things that you need to have in mind when it comes to strength, and contextual actions, just pulling off feats of strength. Like, for example, when someone is holding you, if you are strong enough, in a contextual action, you're going to be able to get away from that someone by using strength. Or if you are trapped in a room that is on fire and you need to find a solution to get outside, then you can break a door if you have enough strength. That is how strength is going to work for your character in combat and also for contextual situations. Dexterity. Dexterity is going to determine on combat situations our initiative, how much damage we deal to enemies with ranged weapons and with finesse weapons like daggers and rapiers and whatnots. Overall, just finesse weapons. The more dexterity that we have, the more damage that we are going to be dealing with those. But also it's going to determine our armor class. So the higher our dexterity, those bonuses that you see right here. So for example, right now, with 15 dexterity, I would be getting +2 on my armor class if I lower all of these points right here and I place as many points as I'm allowed right here the maximum character creation is going to be 17, but I can also probably change my race to something else. I already have my +2 dexterity, so that's unimportant. It's a +3, so this +3 is going to be going to my armor class. I am going to have more armor class with my dexterity character. And then it's also going to affect initiative. How fast can you attack during combat? For assassins, it's very important for them to be able to immediately enter into stealth, and also initiative is very important for every single character because this is a very focused game on CC, so you don't want to be CC'd by the enemy. That is what the dexterity is going to do. Now, on contextual actions, dexterity is just going to make you a nimble character, so being able to let's have the very same example of a character that's holding you. Instead of breaking out of that hold that character is retaining you, you are going to just use some kind of contortionist kind of little thing to get away from that hold instead of actually breaking up from the hold. So dexterity is just always going to be based on nimble actions. Constitution, it's a little bit less used when it comes to actions in the world, but maybe holding your breath for a longer period of time, so being able to walk for longer distances without actually tiring yourself, being able to climb a mountain and not being able to get tired because of this. That is what Constitution is going to give you, but it's also going to give you hit points, which is basically your life in this game. And then we have this 3 right here. On combat, Intelligence and Wisdom, both of them, they are going to affect the effectiveness of you using spells that require the School of Magic for that specific spell. So for example, Intelligence is going to increase your attack rolls for your intelligence spells. Remember that an attack roll is the likelihood, the chance that you have to actually hit someone, to be able to actually hit with the spell that you're throwing at the enemy. The very same thing for Wisdom. For your spells and wisdom to be successful, you need to have lots of wisdom. And then finally, charisma. Charisma is mostly going to be affecting contextual and conversation actions. Now that has been said, we also have the skills. The skills are going to be affected when you create your character. You're going to have a proficiency bonus from your class, which is it's also going to make you proficient depending on the class and depending on the stats that you have. So there's going to be a very specific school of stats allocation that is going to make you preferable to select some of these things. So for example, if I'm not going to be a strength character, I'm not going to be taking intimidation, because intimidation is going to be a strength ability check. So every time that I roll a dice of 20 for my intimidation checks, I am going to get a bonus from my strength. So I'm sorry, for my charisma. So this right here, the one that you have right here, this is the chart of the actual skills that are going to be taking advantage of the abilities that we have right here. So for example, strength is going to affect athletics in every single kind of contextual situation that you have on athletics. Dexterity is going to give you a bonus roll for your acrobatics, for your sleight of hand, and for your stealth. So anytime that you're using a character that is using stealth, sleight of hand, or acrobatics, that should be a dexterous character, that should be a character that's focused on dexterity. Then we have intelligence. Intelligence is mostly going to be affecting contextual situations, but also conversation situations. So for example, every time that you have to do a roll for Arcana, History, Investigation, Nature, and Religion, your character must be an intelligent character for you to be able to receive a bonus roll for your dice of 20 with the specific ability. Then we have Wisdom. Wisdom wise characters are going to be able to have that bonus roll on animal handling, insight, medicine, perception, and survival. So if you are a very wise character, as for example a cleric is just a healer, and as you can see, there is a synergy right here with medicine, which is going to allow you to be also druids. They focus their spells are going to be benefited from wisdom. And we have animal handling as right here. As you can see, the skill that you're going to be choosing for every one of the stats or the abilities, they are going to be intertwined. There's going to be a synergy between them. And finally, charisma is mostly going to be functioning is going to be working on conversations rather than contextual actions. So when you're trying to lie to someone, when you're trying to intimidate someone, where you're trying to amaze someone or persuade someone, you're going to receive a bonus roll for charisma. So for example, a rogue benefits from having charisma because a rogue is mostly going to be using lies to get out of situations, and also a paladin or a warrior. A warrior, you might be wondering why would I want to have charisma with my warrior? Well, probably your warrior is going to be a very intimidating character, and no, the little mistake that I made previously in the video, intimidation is not going to be an inherent skill of strength. It's going to be from charisma. So if you want to make an intimidating warrior that is not only going to be efficient on the battlefield but also being able to get away from situations on conversations, then you should consider placing some points into charisma. And that being said, once I create my character, how do I actually select my points once all of that has been established and clarified? How do I place all of my points? The very class that I think that I'm an expert of, because ever since I have been playing the Dungeons and Dragons games, I have always been a paladin, and I think that the best ideal thing for a paladin would be to have race is also important, because race is going to give you basic ability traits right here. So for example, as you can see, I now have 17 and 16, and instead of the 15 that I would be able to have, I'm going to have my bonuses right here. But my paladin is not going to be a dexterous character. I'm never going to have dexterity. I not want for this to be negative, because if I have a negative, I'm going to have a penalty for -1 to my armor class, which is something that I do not want to have. So I do want to have this one on 0. But for example, my paladin is never. It doesn't mean that my paladin is not going to be. It's going to be dumb. This just means that my paladin is not going to be doing any rolls into history or religion and whatnot, although that is very contradictory, because paladins are very versed into the religion kind of thing. Anyways, unimportant. I'm also not going to have any points into wisdom, because I'm never going to be using spells that require wisdom, although it is an inherent thing of a paladin to be able to bypass the situations by using their charm and how appealing they are to the wounded and the weak. So a paladin, it's always a charismatic character. So this guy right here is going to be a warrior. I want to have as much constitution as well in my paladin, because I am going to be kind of a warrior. So I'm going to be a warrior that's efficient on the battlefield, but I am also going to be a charismatic character. Whereas, for example, let's say that I want to be a fighter. I want to be just all in all a warrior. I'm going to lower those points right there. I still benefit from being a charismatic actor, but I now want to have my focus on constitution, because this is going to be all in all just a warrior. So this guy is going to be a better warrior than the paladin, but it's not going to be as good as on conversation and contextual actions as the paladin, and the paladin is going to be better at contextual and conversation situations, but it's not going to be as strong of a warrior as the warrior on itself. And then we have, so for example, another class that I am very familiar with is going to be the rogue. And the rogue, I want to have as much dexterity as possible. I do not want to have strength with my rogue. I do not care about the negative points into strength, because then again, I am never going to be using strong weapons. I am always going to be using dexterity weapons. And I am also going to receive bonuses for my sleight of hand and my stealth bonuses checks, because of they are this right here. They are skills that are based on dexterity. I'm never going to have constitution with this character, mainly because every single rogue that I play, I always manage to make those builds for those characters to be away from the battlefields. And most of the cases, more often than not, I do not want for these characters to be hit on the battlefield. I want for them to be... the tank is going to manage all of that. And then that leaves us with intelligence and charisma. So as you can see, for a rogue, we have a whole lot of points that we actually can play a little bit around them. So we can actually make maybe not be negative on strength, because I want to carry things, which is going to also have strength is also going to affect your carry weights. And also probably I just want for him to be durable enough to be able to, whenever someone actually notices him on the battlefield, I want for him to actually be able to do something. I want for my rogue to be a charismatic character, because a charismatic character is going to be able to use that extra bonus roll that you have in deception. So I do want my rogue to be a charismatic character. And then we have the final stuff that we can place in here for our rogue not to have any negatives. But as you can see, the rogue actually can get away with a little bit more stuff, because the only main thing that the rogue is going to be needing on itself, it's going to be dexterity, which makes the rogue an amazing class for multi-classing. If I am going to multi-class my rogue into a arcane trickster, maybe this is something that I can do. I can have a little bit of charisma, I can have my intelligence from my spell casting, but also, since I have intelligence with my arcane trickster, I can now add my points in here probably into stuff that requires intelligence, such as investigation. And oh boy, that was a long video as well, but I hope that I helped you to understand the abilities a little bit better now, for you to be able to make the strongest character, and for you to be able to actually use all of this knowledge during your entire playthrough to be more efficient on your choices, conversations, contextual actions, and combat in itself. Remember that I know I told you today, you go just a beautiful person, you are indeed go just a beautiful person. That'll be seeing you goddamn go just a beautiful people in the next one. Have a beautiful day, and goodbye.